Pulau Tioman is today a jewel of Malaysia's east coast, famed for its coral reefs, quiet idyllic beaches, and stunning sunsets. Every year, thousands of visitors converge on Pulau Tioman to swim, to dive, and to bask in the sun. Yet few of these tourists realize that just a short distance away to the southeast, beyond the horizon, lies a smaller island, Pulau Aur, and around its waters, in February 1804, unfolded one of the most audacious encounters in naval history. Here, a convoy of British merchant ships laden with treasure, but protected by only a single small East India Company brig, faced down a French squadron of 5 warships, including a 74-gun ship of the line. What followed was not a battle of superior firepower, but of cunning, deception, and sheer audacity. The outcome of this apparently one-sided battle was to usher in an era of British mastery in Malay waters. This is the story of the Battle of Pulau Aur, the bluff that shaped an empire. The year is 1803, and Britain is locked in battle with France during the Napoleonic Wars. Britain's fortunes depend upon her maritime lifelines, the flow of goods between homeland and the Far East and East Indies. This lucrative trade was the province of the East India Company, whose stately merchant ships plied this ocean route. Napoleon, perceiving this as Britain's soft underbelly, sought to strike there, to sever its India and China trade, stopping the flow of the treasure it needed to prosecute the war. And so in March 1803, a French squadron was dispatched to the Indian Ocean with a singular purpose: to harry and, if possible, destroy British commerce. The ship that dominated this trade route was the East Indiaman. These were 3-decked, stoutly timbered ships, displacing between 500 and 1,200 tons. They could carry up to 36 guns, sufficient firepower to dissuade pirates and smaller corsairs. But these were not men of war. Their guns were of smaller caliber and their ordnance of lesser weight, 9 to 12 pounders compared to the 24 to 32 pounders on the French ships of the line. Their crews were trained more in the arts of seamanship than in the science of delivering a withering naval broadside. Still, while lightly armed, the lofty hulls and tiered gun ports of an East Indiaman might, at a distance, easily give the appearance of a small naval ship of the line. As we shall see, this accident of design was to prove an unexpected ally. Each winter, these East Indiamen would gather at ports in the east, such as Canton, and form large convoys for the long and dangerous passage home to Britain. The convoy of early 1804 was a prize beyond measure. It had within its holds £8 million in goods, including tea, silk, porcelain, and even rare plants destined for Kew Gardens. It consisted of 16 East Indiamen and 11 smaller merchant ships, but there was only one armed escort available for this rich fleet, the modest company 8-gun brig Ganges. News of the war had reached Canton too late for the Royal Navy to send protection. Thus, the richest merchant fleet in the world sailed into imminent danger with only the company's small brig for protection. Lying in wait for the convoy was the French Admiral Charles-Alexandre Léon Durand Linois, a commander of repute, with a squadron that outclassed the merchant ships in every respect. His flagship was the Marengo, a 74-gun ship of the line, named after Napoleon's famous victory over the Austrians in Italy. With her sailed the 40-gun frigate Belle Poule, a 32-gun frigate Semillante, the 30-gun corvette Berceau, and the 18-gun Dutch brig Aventurier. To appreciate how one-sided a fight would be, one need only compare their force. The Marengo could unleash a broadside of heavy 36 and 18-pounder guns, her single salvo outweighing by 5 or 6 times that of an East Indiaman. The French gunners were professionals. The British crews, for the most part, were merchant sailors. In a normal fight, the result would have been a foregone conclusion, and it would not be Britannia ruling the waves. In December 1803, armed with intelligence from Dutch spies in the East Indies, Linois put out to sea from Batavia and patrolled the east coast of the Malay Peninsula in search of the rich British quarry. On the morning of 14th February 1804, with Pulau Aur in sight to the southwest, the lookout aboard the East Indiaman Royal George spotted 3 sails on the horizon. Commodore Nathaniel Dance, commanding from the Earl Camden, dispatched Ganges and 4 of his largest East Indiamen to investigate. They soon confirmed the worst. The French were upon them. Commodore Dance could have ordered his fleet to turn around and make for safe harbours, but he did not. Instead, he ordered his largest vessels into a line of battle, precisely as if they were a squadron of the Royal Navy ships of the line. It was a deliberate masquerade, designed to suggest that these were not merchantmen, but formidable ships of war. Linois, seeing what looked like the order and bearing of Royal Navy ships of the line, hesitated. Instead of pouncing immediately on the East Indiaman, he held off, preferring to attack in the morning. In doing so, he gave the British a gift more precious than the cargo in their holds. He gave them time. Through the night, Commodore Dance kept his crews busy in preparation for the coming duel and refined his deception. Smaller craft were sheltered out of sight to one side, their crews transferred to the larger ships so they could lend a hand with the guns. 3 vessels kept their lights burning, signaling their readiness for battle. The whole convoy formed in battle line, as if under the watchful eye of an admiral of the fleet. Linois watched the performance and was thoroughly deceived. When dawn broke on 15th of February, Dance played his final card. The Ganges and his 4 leading ships hoisted the blue ensign of the Royal Navy, while the rest flew the red of the merchant service. The illusion was complete. By early afternoon, Linois moved in, attempting to outflank what he thought were the warships and hitting the merchantmen in the rear of the line. Dance immediately ordered his line to cross in front of the French squadron and cut them off. At 1:15, his lead ship, the Royal George, was hit by the first French broadside and responded in kind. Ganges, Earl Camden, Whalley, and Alfred joined in, their broadsides rolling over the water. East Indiamen in the second line of ships then advanced and was so eager to join the fray that one of the ships collided with the Whalley. The British and French exchanged fire for 43 minutes, but neither side inflicted any serious damage. One British sailor was killed and another wounded. At 2 p.m, Lenoir quite suddenly ordered his ships to turn away at full sail, eastwards, away from the battle. Scenting victory, Dance ordered a general chase. Though the East Indiamen could not hope to match the French for speed, the gesture maintained the fiction of naval strength. For 2 hours, they pursued the French ships before Dance called them back. That evening, the convoy sailed south for the entrance to the Straits of Malacca, where they anchored safely. And so, without the loss of a single ship, the richest convoy in the world had bluffed its way past a squadron of enemy warships. It was a contest of nerve, and the East Indiamen had prevailed. The victory averted a financial calamity for both the East India Company and their bankers and insurers, Lloyd's of London. Upon his return to England, Commodore Dance was knighted by King George III, awarded £5,000 and a life pension, and shared in a £50,000 prize fund for the captains and crews involved. In France, the tale ended less happily for Lenoir. Napoleon thundered that Lenoir had shown a want of courage of mind, and bitterly complained that all my admirals see double. Lenoir protested that he had faced 8 ships of the line, a claim that history has shown to be pure fiction. In 1806, Lenoir was captured at Cape Verde after attacking a squadron of British men of war which, in an ironic twist of fate, he had mistakenly assumed were merchantmen. The Battle of Pulau Aur was more than a curious naval skirmish. It was a turning point in confidence and perception. A convoy of British East Indiamen, masquerading as men of war, had faced down a French squadron and carried the wealth of Asia safely home. In London, it was hailed as proof of British naval superiority and ingenuity. The battle was even celebrated by the famous writer of sea adventures, Frederick Marryat, who featured it in his 3rd novel, Newton Forster of the Merchant Service. In Paris, it became a symbol of naval failure that was sealed with the defeat at Trafalgar just a year later. But in the East, the consequences of the battle were longer lasting. The defeat of Lenoir's squadron strengthened Britain's grip on the sea lanes of the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. The East India Company, its lifeline secure, continued to expand its influence. Within a few decades, the Union Jack would fly not only over Penang, but over Singapore and Malacca, the keys to the straits and gateways to the peninsula. Thus, a daring deception off the quiet shores of Pulau Aur foreshadowed a new age, the age of British supremacy in Malay waters, and set the stage for British gunboat diplomacy in the decades to come. What began as a trick of flags and bluff upon the water became in time the foundation of empire upon the land. Thank you for joining me on this voyage into the forgotten waters of Malayan history. If you enjoyed our little sea journey, do give this video a like, share it with your shipmates, and subscribe to the Malayan Chronicles for more stories of battle, cunning, and bold adventures from the past. Until next time, fair winds and following seas. Cheerio!